Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, September 9th, Maplewood City Council meeting. I normally start off with some news to highlight something, and I just want to commend my fellow council members for the discussion that we had. Sometimes we have very difficult jobs where we have to really dive into things, and as your representatives, we have to make decisions about what we think is going to be the best for our community. So I would encourage you, if you are interested, we had a very robust discussion tonight about two topics that are very relevant. The first one, we had a discussion giving staff direction about cannabis and the new cannabis ordinance that we are going to be looking at for the city of Maplewood. So if you would like, you can go back and look at the workshop. We had a very good discussion. City Clerk Sept did a great job presenting the information that we know as of today. The state is a little bit slow on giving us more direction, but we are working through that because by the end of the year, we have to be ready with cannabis and how that's going to be implemented in our city. And then the other discussion that we had was concerning the Purple Line. We have been discussing the Purple Line for years, but we really hadn't had an opportunity to discuss it as a council. And so there has been public engagement. Metro Transit has been here at least 3 times over the summer. We've gotten new and updated information about ridership and about numbers. And our council came to, actually it was a split decision tonight, 3-2, to move forward with a resolution. And the resolution will have 3 different parts to it. One will be withdrawing support for the White Bear alternative. One will be withdrawing support for the Purple Line running on the Vento Trail. And then also included in the resolution will be direction for staff to continue working with the Metro Transit staff when it comes to alternatives. The numbers that had been provided to us were at least, multiple council members talked about how the numbers just didn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of ridership and the cost and the disruption to our community. But we are still very interested in transit, and what we are directing staff to do is to continue dialogue with Metro Transit staff, but not about the Purple Line anymore, but to talk about microtransit, to talk about running possibly a letter line down White Bear Avenue, which would not be a BRT, it would just simply run in traffic, and or possibly autonomous vehicles. We do need transit, but we need to look forward and we need to not look backwards. So those are some important things. You can learn more about it and hear your council at work talking about these very difficult things if you take a look at the workshop video on it tonight. So with that, we are going to start tonight's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. Let's start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sept, would you do the roll call for us?
Councilmember Juniman?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Present.
Councilmember Villavicencio?
Here.
Councilmember Cave?
Here.
Mayor Abrams?
Here as well, thank you. Council members, the first thing on the agenda tonight is to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by, was it Juniman? Juniman? The motion to approve our agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next is the approval of our minutes. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve the August 26th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on, our council calendar update. City Manager Sable, this is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to share. So as you did note from the previous discussion, we will be bringing back a resolution with regard to Purple Line. updates. Also, we will be talking about commissioner reappointments at our meeting on September 23rd. And then starting to look out into October, we will have the Ramsey County EDA and Housing Authority here to talk about ways that they're looking to enhance their both their authority and also their funding stream, and all of the good things that are going on at Ramsey County. And also on the 14th, we will be talking about review of applications of our 2025 charitable gambling funds. And then I'll note that there is on October 15th a tour. Community Development Director Pard, I sat down with planner Mike Martin on potential routes. There's a lot to pack into a 2-hour window, and we want to make sure that there's time for questions, and so we're trying to get the exact moment exactly right. A couple of other things that I just want to note. Tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. there is the Senior Safety Task Force at the Community Center. It's an opportunity for seniors to talk to us about what are the things that they're concerned about in terms of safety, whether it's physical safety in their homes or cyber safety and making sure that they're protected online. And so what we really want to do is get some feedback from the community and what are the types of things that they're looking for that they would like to see police and fire and public safety folks respond with. And they also, I feel obligated to point out that Friday, September 20th, is going to be the fireworks show. Festivities will start at 5 p.m. at Hazelwood Park. Fireworks are going to be at approximately 8 p.m. The sun sets that day, I believe it's at 7:12 p.m., so about 45 minutes later. Should be plenty dark, and if you're looking outside, you can kind of get a sense that it might be just about the right time for fireworks, about 8 p.m. And then lastly, I know that the community has, and this council took one of the first communities to offer private assistance for EAB tree removal. The deadline for closed last week, actually closed on the 31st of August. We had more than 60 residents put in for the lottery. We've identified the first 50 residents on a random number generator on an Excel spreadsheet. And so we're actually reached out to all of them. We've already had a few people decline, so we've already got people on the waiting list who are next in the queue in the standby list. And so we are really looking forward to seeing how this program plays out. I'll also note that we've had calls from other communities said, how did you do this, and what does it work, and what would you encourage us to do? And so we continue to be a leader in that front. And so with that, Mayor, I'll stop and see if there are any questions.
Okay, Councilmember Cave, you have a question?
Just a question about the applications for charitable gambling. When did we put those out, and can we announce what it's for, one of our 3 groups that it's for, and when they're due by?
Thank you for that. So the applications for the charitable gambling went out to previous recipients and people who've identified they've noted were interested in last week. And so I'm channeling my inner Lois Knudsen. So the moment is the group that is this year is for those who do social services and human services. So if you provide services to residents as a nonprofit or another group, that is the group this year that's eligible for that. And unfortunately, I am going to have to defer. I don't know the deadline for the application, but I will get that out to you first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, and if we can have it on our website, and just so, because I know a lot of people love these charitable gambling opportunities, and we split it up every 3rd year for things, so, okay.
Would be great, I think, if we can get it on our website. Okay. It's also, Councilmember Lee just pointed out that it is in our new Maplewood Living Apply for Charitable Gambling Funds. We just all got this today before we opened up the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there we go.
Anything else, Mr. Sable?
Mayor, that's it.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. Sable? There's no council presentations tonight, then. We have a consent agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda item G1 through 4.
Second.
Moved by Lee, seconded by Juniman. Consent agenda items G1 through 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have no public hearings tonight. Unfinished business. We are talking once again about our property tax levy and setting the 2025 budget public hearing date and time. Mr. Rube, this is your topic.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So as you mentioned today, could we have thank you. Tonight, we're talking about the 2025 preliminary property tax levy. So we're asking council to consider adopting the preliminary levy for 2025. As a reminder, it cannot be increased from here on out, but it can be decreased if need be. And then to set the public hearing date and time. The preliminary property tax levy is as follows on the chart here. The levy would be $31,823,656 for 2025, which is an increase of $3,533,699, or 12.49%. Per council's request, this chart looks very similar as you've seen before, but the very last column, instead of showing the percent increase based off of dollar-wise and that, it's showing the levy impact. So you can see for the general fund, the levy impact is 6.94% for the general fund out of the 12.49. So then the next biggest area is the ambulance fund for operations, and it's an additional investment of 4.96% of a levy worth. And the levy is about $282,900 per 1%. So just wanted to break that out a little bit more so you can see where that's going. This preliminary levy includes 3 additional firefighter paramedics that we've talked about all along. It's just the biggest ticket item that's really added to this budget, so I want to point that out. You've also seen this chart before, the tax levy. With the 12.49%, it still is leaving us at an average of 5.35% increase over the last 10 years. This one, again, to bring it back up, it's just showing that Maplewood, with that 12.49%, we have done 33% worth of increases over the last 5 years. That includes 0% going back to 2021. We're falling right in the middle of where most cities are in Ramsey County. Several of them obviously are over us. There's 9 over, 9 under, and some of them we still haven't received information on because they're probably going through the same process right now. Before I get into this slide, I'd like to thank Ramsey County for all the information that they provide to the city. So they go through a lot of information, as you know, for the county, but then each and every city as well. Normally, this chart would only show the countywide suburban Ramsey and St. Paul portions of the market value changes because they can't go through, well, they probably could. It's very time consuming for them to go through each and every city to come up with scenarios. Did go back and ask them to pull up Maplewood's information because we figured it's good information to provide to council. They took extra time to do that, so we appreciate that on their part. 2 areas I'd like to point out is the first column is the residential portion. In Maplewood, we're seeing about a 3.7% market value growth, which is due to the low supply and high demand right now in Maplewood. And then also I'd like to point out the last column for apartments, that market value has dropped 1.4%, and that's due to the stabilization of the apartments and the growth of the apartments, and then I guess mainly stabilizing after many years of growth within the apartment market. For this, everybody wants to know how it's going to impact their actual property taxes on an annual basis. So the market value for a median value home in 2024 was $327,900. That increased by 3.9% up to $340,800. Property tax they would have expected to see on behalf of the city is $1,374 in 2024, going up to $1,563 in 2025, which is a $189 increase. And that is annually broken out. It gets to be about $3.63 per week. There are 2 major factors that for 2025 that play into this number. The first one is the fiscal disparities. As you may recall, we received an additional $673,000 in fiscal disparities. That helped reduce the median valued homes taxes by about $40 annually. And then the other change is how the market value, the homestead credit that is applied to homes. So the homestead credit used to max out at homes that are $413,800. Now the max is $517,300. So more homes actually are getting an exclusion than before. that exclusion helps out this particular residence or home by additional $40 annually. So without that, those two things, fiscal disparities and the exclusion calculation, that same home for $340,800 would have seen a property tax bill for $1,647 or $273 annually of an increase. So between the 273 and the 189, which is a good savings, and not necessarily, but it holds back the amount of increase that they'll see. Other than that, what our budget timeline looks like at this point is tonight we're asking council to consider adopting the maximum tax levy. And then in October, November, we'll look at additional budget discussions. And in December, we'll have the TNT hearing and then CIP hearing and then adopt the budget and CIP. With that, finally, it's just council consideration to see if council would be willing to make that motion and then if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rube. Mr. Sable.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I want to just say how much I appreciate working with Finance Director Rube and his team. This is a lot of stuff that comes together. In fact, the Ramsey County data that he talked about said was specific to the city of Maplewood arrived this morning at around 6:30 this morning. So I appreciate you, maybe even a little earlier.
5 something.
5 something. So I really appreciate the quickness with which you do that. This is obviously the first time I've presented a budget to the city council, and I am keenly aware that it is a larger number than what has been historically presented. But I think this budget does a couple of things that I think are really well formulated and why I fully support bringing this forward. The first is that it honors the commitments that the council has made previously. The commitments that you make to the city staff don't go unnoticed by staff. They're really proud to work for this community. They feel really supported by you, by the leadership team, and it shows up every day. And we talk about how, our fire EMS service loves to go out and do calls. If they go and do a mutual aid call, other communities recognize that the service is just a little bit better. And so that is the investments that you've made in staff and in payroll and in investments in the benefits play out over time, and I think we can see that in there. The second thing that this council has done is that commitment to doing fire EMS services, so that commitment to adding 12 firefighters over a period of 4 years. Means a lot, and it is also not free. And so being willing to say that you're willing to fund a heightened level of service to get better response times, to get quality services is there. I think the other thing that this budget does is it really starts to tackle some of the structural imbalance that we see. Maplewood historically receives a lot of fiscal disparities. We also often receive one-time LGA money, and while we thoughtfully plan on how to use that, there are some gaps in the ambulance fund that this budget starts to address. There are some future asks and future needs that we might have to address, but I think this budget this year solves the most urgent one, and I will say that the ambulance fund was prepared or was projected to run out of its cash balance by the end of this year, and this budget, I think, will put an end to that, dipping into the reserve funds, but that we still have some gaps that we'll solve for in year 2 and year 3 and beyond. But I think this budget does reflect the values that this council has laid out. It is consistent with other things. So we often talk about, well, what are we seeing other cities do? I believe that the current estimate of average for Ramsey County suburban communities levy increases is 10.5%. Again, we're not going to be at the top and we're not going to be at the bottom. We'll be consistently in the middle in this. And so we're excited to start also a new budget process this year where you actually hear from the staff, because they do great work and they're proud of the kind of quality of the services that they deliver. And I think it's about time that they get an opportunity to showcase it, to say, we know that every tax dollar is really valuable, and we deliver and we give a lot. And so a dollar spent here is going to go just a little bit more than a dollar spent somewhere else, and we stand by and are willing to do that. So with that, Mayor, I wanted to say thanks. This is the first time I've had the chance to do this, and I'm surrounded by a really great team, and I'm really happy to present this and look forward to the next 2 or 3 months as we continue to refine, because as all good budgets do, they are refined after every conversation, and to the end result in December when you get the budget that's going to serve this community well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sable, and thank you very much, Mr. Rube. Councilmember Cave, you have a question.
I just have a comment. Just looking at the preliminary property tax levy, the one that you did, the new one with the levy impact. As much as, we are part of Ramsey County and we compare ourselves to all the cities and stuff. And when you look at this levy impact, almost 7% is general fund and almost 5% is the ambulance fund operation. So that kind of gives us a 12% right there. You're really comparing apples to oranges because we are committed to we're committed to our staff and we're committed to our citizens here and providing them with the best public safety and services that they have, and it shows. And like Mr. Sable said, people comment on it, people know, the city staff knows. So the levy does seem high, and I know there's people high and low, but they don't have the same services and the quality of services that Maplewood provides. So I think we're an outlier in that sense, and it does seem high, but when you can present this to citizens, what they're getting for their money and where we're putting our money, and that's what they wanted, it's not a hard ask. I mean, I don't know. I just think sometimes we compare ourselves with so many other county or other cities, and we're really different. Mm-hmm. We put our money here, and it shows. So I just wanted people to see that. So thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then, council members, there is a motion before us.
I motion
Motion.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Motion to adopt the resolution setting a preliminary tax levy for taxes payable in 2025 at $31,823,656 and setting the 2025 budget hearing for December 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Moved by Villavicencio, seconded by Juniman. The motion as written in our council packets. I don't have to read the whole thing and say that big number again. Did again. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff, for putting all of that together, and thank you, Mr. Rube. Okay, moving on to new business. We have the residential trash and recycling contract extensions for both Republic and Tennis Sanitation. Ms. Finwall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Maplewood residential trash and recycling contract extension. And we heard about this briefly at a workshop in June, so you may recall. But for a little recap here, Republic Services has been the city's trash and yard waste contract hauler since we organized trash back in 2012. And the contract covers all single-family homes for trash hauling. That's up to 4 units. Yard waste subscription, so residents can opt into the yard waste program. City facilities and parks, they collect trash and organics from all those facilities for free as part of the overall contract. And then the spring cleanup, which they offer the main contractor position there, and do that again for free as part of that overall contract, and then offer this fall cleanup campaign where they offer reduced price bulky item collection in October. And then Tennis Sanitation has been the city's recycling contractor for even longer. I'm not exactly sure when that started, but the contract currently covers single-family homes and multifamily homes. So they're covering more of the city with the recycling program. And they also collect recycling from all city facilities and parks, similar to Republic Services, at no cost as part of the overall contract. And then in the city's contract, small businesses and churches can opt into the recycling program. It's a great way for those organizations to save money on their trash program, and they pay the same amount as our residential individuals do for recycling. So the current term of this contract is, it's a 5.5-year contract that we signed back in, well, it began in 2020. and that will extend to June 30th of 2025. So at the beginning of the year, we started negotiations with Republic and Tennis, and they both agreed to a 2-year extension, so we could continue the great service and great pricing, and then after that date, consider going out for RFP for a new contract. So this extended contract would run from July 1st of next year to June 30th of 2027. And the reason we like to go to the middle of the year is in the event that the city is rolling out carts or something like that. It's much easier to do that, of course, in the summer than it is right in the middle of January there. So this is probably hard to see on this screen here, but we did supply you in your staff report a comparison of surrounding communities with some form of organized trash hauling. And so here you'll see 6 other Ramsey County cities. And keeping in mind that there's a lot of variables when you're looking at pricing, and it has to do with the size of the city, the frequency of collection, whether they have city-owned carts or whether the contractor supplies the carts, you know, how far along they are into the term of the contract length, and so on and so forth. So here you'll see the rates for trash and recycling range from $247.92 per year to $450.28 per year. And of course, residents are paying that on a monthly basis. And we took a look at medium-sized carts, because here in Maplewood, we're working on this pay-as-you-throw methodology, where more of the cost of the disposal fee is going towards those larger carts. So it wasn't fair to really compare the large-sized carts, so we chose the mid-sized carts. And you'll see that Maplewood is kind of right in the middle here for our trash hauling and recycling rates. So with that, we approached Republic Services. We'll start with that extension. And they agreed to kind of continue on with that collection rate, keeping in mind that trash fees are made up of 4 different areas. The collection fee, which is the cost to collect the trash at the curb. The tipping fee, which is the cost to dispose of the trash at the Ramsey Recycling and Energy Center. And then the state and county solid waste tax, and then the city of Maplewood adds a cart fee to cover the cost of our trash carts. So all those mixed together makes the trash fee, but what you're seeing here is just what the contractor has control over, and that's the collection fee. So beginning in January of 2020, the rates were $7.40, and so now we're seeing that kind of extend on for 2 more years to that $9.01. And then they charge other things, like if you have extra bags of trash, let's say your cart is full and you have 3 bags of trash along the side, they charge these extra bags of trash pricing. And then the bulky waste, Republic Services took a look at that and realized that the cost of processing many of these bulky items has increased. So you'll see a slight increase in the bulky waste items, which a resident can call and schedule that bulky waste collection, say an appliance, something like that, and then it would get added to their trash bill. So there's a slight increase in that. And then the yard waste, again, kind of continuing on with that increase in collection rates there. So the contract, since it started in 2020, you know, we've worked under this contract for a while, and we've seen just a few little things that we wanted to tweak. So we worked with Republic Services on some of those issues. One is severe weather coordination. Now, this isn't always an issue, but we had a few winters where we had, you know, back-to-back severe weather, and one of the haulers would cancel the service and, you know, extend the next day because of the weather, and the other hauler would not. And that caused some confusion with our residents. You know, do I put out a trash cart? Do I put out a recycling cart? I don't know, you know, and then it gets missed. And since Republic Services is the only hauler currently that has the ability to do the call-em-alls, you know, we want to make sure the messaging is correct. And so if the recycling is continuing on and the trash is not, that we don't have mixed messages going on out there. So we included some language in there to ensure that both haulers are working more closely with the city during those events. The reports, there's a requirement that they submit monthly reports, which talks about things like the amount of trash that was collected, the number of carts that are out there, things of that nature. And then they also do that yearly for the city. And we've seen over the term of the contract a need for some tweaking in that area, so we made that clear in the contract. Municipal facilities, we added, I think, just one facility now. They collect trash and recycling from Bruin Troop Heritage Farm, which of course isn't owned by the city, but it is on city property. So they're both willing to work with the city and offer that, again, as a service under this contract. And then cart management, ensuring that we're receiving adequate information on the number of city carts that we have and the number that we need to replenish every year. When we first started the trash hauling system, the city purchased probably about 10,000 carts, and they had a 10-year warranty, and we thought, oh, we're good for 10 years. Well, it wasn't quite the case, so over time, we've had to kind of create this cart management system, and we've tweaked some of that language now in this contract. And then the food scraps pickup program, of course, this is something offered by Ramsey County, and all haulers are participating in this in the county. So we worked with Ramsey County to get some language in the contract. And since it's been rolled out in Maplewood last October, there's been no issues, and residents are able to opt in, of course, to this food scrap collection program, put their food scraps in a durable compostable bag, and then at the end of the week, put it in their trash cart where Republic will collect the trash, and then once it's tipped at the Recycling and Energy Center, that's where it's sorted. So that's been going well, and we're seeing an increase in that food scrap collection, so that's a good thing. And then you may recall, we briefly discussed this during your June workshop. One was the bad debt and delinquent accounts. And what we were seeing is the previous language allowed for Republic Services to add an 8% administrative service fee for any trash bill that was over 3 months delayed. And then after 6 months, of course, they can submit the delinquent accounts to the city, and the city certifies them and then sends it to the county, and then it's placed on the residents' property taxes. So over time, we were seeing some high administrative service fees, in the spreadsheets that were sent, and we began questioning what that was about, and it turns out that they were maybe interpreting the contract a different way than the city of Maplewood, I think, thought it was intended to be when we came up with that language. So they were taking that 8% and then kind of compounding it, so charging 8% on the overall late fees and the collection fees in the past. So we flagged that as a concern, and the Republic Services came back and had come up with a suggestion that perhaps we could charge 10% administrative service fee, but we won't do it as a compounding rate. And the City Council expressed some concern, and, could you please research this and see if it's a possibility to, work on something else. And in the end, mainly because how their system works and how they do the billing, it was easiest to come up with this $5 flat fee. So in your staff report, I did include a comparison on how the administrative service fees add up, and you'll see that over time, a resident would pay, let's say they didn't pay their trash bill for a year, over time, the most that they would pay is $35, where under the 8% compounding, was, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was $160 some. So you can see those fees are really adding up. So we modified the language to include this $5 flat fee. And then finally, we heard about a request to have our haulers offer public education and customer service language translated, particularly for customer service, especially Republic Services, who handles the billing, and when in our printed material. And since that time, we've had some discussion about, how feasible that is at this stage of our contract. But we were able to get some language in there that indicates that they will work with the city to include translated customer service and printed material in mainly Hmong and Spanish, which is what we're seeing as our second most used, I guess, languages in Maplewood. And right now, Republic Services, they do offer translated service for customer service when individuals call in for trash hauling. It'll be notified to that customer service rep that this individual needs the translation, and then they'll get transferred to a different facility. So it might take a little bit longer, the customer service, but at least they'll get to someone who has that translation ability. And then also with the solid waste guide, we'll ensure that we work with both Republic and Tennis on having some sort of way of translating that guide in both Hmong and Spanish. So that was added into that contract. Now we'll take a breath and we'll move on to recycling. So with the recycling contract, we worked with Tennis Sanitation, and they also agreed to kind of extend that pricing. And one nice thing about both of these contract extensions is, even though the pricing ended June 30th of next year, Republic and Tennis agreed to continue that pricing, through the end of the year. So it won't be confusing to the residents to suddenly, in mid-year, have some new price. So that was a benefit of this negotiation as well. And then you can see the terms of the contract now will be from the originally 4 to next year being $5.25 per household per month, which of course the city of Maplewood adds to the water bill. The terms will go from $5.25 to $5.95. And then the residential contract extension, again, there were just a few minor tweaks. Severe weather coordination, the same as Republic Services there. Multi-dwelling unit property owners and Tennis Sanitation, they, of course, do the multifamily, and they have started, during the beginning of our contracts with them, sending out letters to our multi-unit property owners indicating how much they've recycled over the year and how much they've saved in, energy and things like that. So it's a real good educational piece. But we wanted to work a little more closely with Tennis on the language, so they've agreed to let us kind of review that before they mail it out to the multifamily properties. And then again with the reports, both those monthly and yearly reports, kind of cleaning up some of the items that we would like to see there. And then the municipal facilities, adding that Bruin Troop Heritage Farm. And then for the Tennis contract, what we heard during the workshop was really that translation service. And being a smaller company, Tennis doesn't have any non-English speaking customer service reps at this time. But it should be noted that they don't handle the volume of calls that Republic Services does because, as you know, they don't do the billing. So, but they have agreed, they have worked on their website and now have translation service on that website since your concern and request. And then also we'll work with the city on that solid waste guide. So those were the language changes in those giant contracts that were included in your staff reports. We sent you both the red line version and then the clean version. And so tonight we do have representatives from both Republic Services and Tennis who are here tonight if you have any questions or comments. And tonight what we are asking of the City Council is a motion to approve both of those contracts, Republic Services residential trash, bulky item, and yard waste contract extension. And so that would be from July 2025 to June 30, 2027, and the same for Tennis Sanitation. And I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, are there any questions that you might have? Councilmember Juniman.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I'd like to thank Sean for all the work that goes into this. You look at the red-lined version and the regular version and just having to keep track of all this. And she's also the chosen one to get all the fabulous phone calls if somebody has a question or a not very nice comment. That's the person that gets it. So I want to thank you for all your work you do on this. It's an ongoing thing all year long. It isn't just now. So we're really lucky to have this done and done this well. So thanks for all your work, Sean. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Lee.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to say thanks also for adding the language piece of it. Bits and pieces like that as our community continues to change. These are the intentional efforts and things that we have to do to make sure that we're servicing all of our community members. So I appreciate that addition. Thank you.
Council members, we have no other lights. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the Republic Services residential trash bulky item and yard waste contract extension July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2027.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the Republic Services residential trash bulky item and yard waste contract extension July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2027. Is there, there was another sentence, minor revisions as approved by the city attorney are authorized as needed. I would suggest that as a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Would that be amenable to both of you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And next, we have tennis sanitation. Their motion, would someone like to make that?
I further move to approve the tennis sanitation residential recycling contract extension and direct the mayor and city manager to sign the contract. Minor revisions as approved by the city attorney.
Second.
And seconded by, I'm not quite sure.
Close to one.
Okay, we'll give it to Lee. Okay. The motion to approve the tennis sanitation's residential recycling contract extension and direct the mayor and city manager to sign the contract. Minor revisions as approved by the city attorney. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And council members, that was the last of our agenda for tonight. Mr. Sable.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, and to the audience watching at home. I just wanted to give you an answer on the charitable gambling funds. You can get more information at maplewoodmn.gov/gambling funds. The deadline is September 30th, 2024, and this year priority will be given to social supports and senior services. For more information, call Lois Knudsen, 651-249-2051. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council members, we are adjourned.